I mean, we did more than that. We 3 weeks ago did a press conference like we had every 4.5 years and said anytime there's additional money, we want to see it pay down debt. We want to give it back to the taxpayers. We want to go to infrastructure. We had senators and House members sitting with us. There is no question on where I believe on additional money. And so they can choose to do what they want, but we stand by what we've always said for 4.5 years.
Governor, a lot of this meeting seemed to be saying, well, we're going to go ahead and support this, but we're really, really frustrated with how you did it. Do you think that's an accurate depiction of how this process has gone along?
I will tell you that I don't take any of this personally. What I will tell you is the state of South Carolina had a job to do, and what we are celebrating is a $500 million investment and 4,000 jobs that are going to affect a lot of rural areas. It's a great day in South Carolina. This was another step to keeping our promise. We've got one more step to go, and then we're home free.
Do you regret making any of the comments that clearly tick them off regarding we don't need you and that kind of thing?
So you have to look at the context of when that was made. That was made in reference to the Senate caucus called me in because Senator Letterman had said that we needed $70 million to get the Volvo deal, and I said to them on behalf of Secretary Hitt and I, we don't need the legislature for this Volvo deal. For this project that's in question, we have it because we had already gotten the certification by the treasurer. That's the only thing we said when we said we didn't need the legislature. If some took it one way or the other, that's them, but that was the context of the meeting.
Why was it so important it be borrowed? Why have you said that Volvo wanted it borrowed?
So, I think that's the one thing that should not be lost in this. Volvo Cars wanted this process to be a certain way. They wanted it through economic development deals. They did not want it to go through the legislature. They didn't want to go through any other issue. And we see that with big companies like this. They don't want to be debated. So what we were trying to do was satisfy our customer. What we were trying to do was secure a deal that would give 4,000 jobs to South Carolinians. It took this process to do it, and that's what we did.
In the letters written by Leatherman and Lucas, they said it was a $600 million investment. At what point did it become $500 million?
So what happened with the letters was we sat down with both Senator Leatherman and Speaker Lucas back in April, I think April 1st, to let them know this is the project, this is what's going to be required, this is what we need. We're talking about $125 million. They were very aware, and so when they walked out, it needs to be legal. Certainly it needed to be certified by the treasurer, and everybody was fine. It was legal, it was certified by the treasurer for the $123 million. We followed the process. They wrote letters saying that if you follow the process, we will make sure we keep our promise and do it accordingly.
And just to make sure I understood the last part, because I can't do math to save my life, the $70 million that would be from the surplus cash, that would go offset a portion of that bond, correct?
So I think the General Assembly has a decision to make. They have $415 million in extra money. They've got to decide how to spend it. We have always said, if you choose to pay down debt, we love that. If you want to give it back to the taxpayers, it shows we're making too much money, the taxpayers are paying too much, give it back to them. And we've said, or give it to infrastructure, which has been a big conversation. So they have to now debate $415 million. As long as it's one of those three things, we support it.
So you say it's their decision, but is it okay with you if we spend $87 million on $123 million in debt?
Well, I think first of all you have to look at, if you go back to the original BMW deal, it was $57 million on $105 million debt. So these things are not uncommon. What we would do through our executive budget is continue to pay down debt like we always have. We paid down debt early with the unemployment loan that we had. We've always suggested to pay down early, and we've already talked to the treasurer about a payment plan to pay those things down early. So part of what we did when the certification process took place was work with the treasurer and say, okay, what can we do that's in the best interest of South Carolina? They told us already. That's already going to be in the executive budget. You're going to see that next year, and we expect that General Assembly will follow suit and support that as we go through. Should they decide to give more money this year, we applaud that and more than happy to see that happen.
Now, of course, you had a lot of concerns with the bond proposals that the Senate and the House had during the budget discussion. What sets this proposal apart from that, aside from the fact that it is to help Volvo get here?
So bonds are meant for things that are not the normal course of business. Bonds are not meant for maintenance projects. Bonds are not meant for normal work projects. That's not what you do. So the bonds that you saw issued by the General Assembly and attempted to go through were projects. They were projects that we could pay with the regular money that we already had. We had additional money. They could have used that. And so what we were saying is, why would you borrow $400 million when you already had $400 million in additional money already? We stand by that. When you have something like this is not a normal course of business. It's not every day that you get a $500 million investment by an auto plant that's going to create 4,000 jobs. That's not something you just pay for in any given year. At the same time, when we were going through this process, we didn't know we were going to have this much extra money. So now that you have the extra money, that again goes to show, do what it takes to benefit the taxpayers. At the end of the day, that's what we always want to do.
Governor, on that concern, the bonds package for both the Senate and the House had money allocated towards the Aeronautical Center of Trident Tech, which also goes to create jobs. Do you have any concerns that if, Bowie made a promise to invest another, I think it was like $1 billion in the area to bring more jobs, if the Aeronautical Center doesn't go through, that means that some jobs could be lost there?
We absolutely support the Aeronautical Center, and what we've said is the money was there in the budget to do that. So go ahead and use the money that you have. This is about prioritizing. If jobs are so important, if workforce training is so important, put it in the budget to start with. Make sure that you go and get that. You don't need to go and borrow money to do that. You need to say that workforce training matters. We had the money there, and what we were saying was use the money that you already had. Last question.
Shifting gears slightly, UAW has come out and said we want to be a part of the Volvo process. What are your thoughts on their attempt to come to South Carolina? I know you've spoken out against the machinist. I can't think of. Yeah, I am. What do you have to say to UAW?
What I'll tell you is we build planes with Boeing. We now will be building cars with BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volvo. 5 tire companies, carbon fiber, all non-union. We have companies in South Carolina that understand you take care of those that take care of you. We have associates who appreciate the loyalty with their companies. What I can tell to the UAW is take a lesson from the IAM. That's how South Carolina handles unions. Thanks, guys.